In this video, we will talk about analyze algorithms. The first point we will talk about is the purpose of an algorithm. The second point we will talk about is familiar algorithms. The third point is naming conventions. And then we will talk about calculations. These are on page 240. And in page 241, we will cover the titles Structure and Trace Tables. Let's start. Analyze algorithms. Purpose of algorithms. The purpose of algorithm is to turn input data into output information. So to turn the data that we input into an output that we can use. To describe the purpose of an algorithm, you need to describe the relationship between input and output value. Now let's talk about the familiar algorithms. An example of a familiar algorithm is the pseudo code where we write the program that we want. We also have the Python and the flowchart. Now let's talk about the naming conventions. A well-designed program or algorithm will have sensible variable names. So for example, when we have a variable called the sum, first of all we have the data that we input into this variable. And in this case, we will be calling this variable the sum. That means we understand that we can add inside of it. So this is the naming convention. So simply, we have data that we input into a certain variable and we can name the variable in any name that ties the data to it. Now let's talk about the calculations. We can have calculations inside the algorithms. For example, we can have sum equals sum plus number, and these are all numbers. For example, in the pseudocode, we use an arrow to calculate the value inside the variable. So here we have the sum plus the number, and we have the arrow to show that we will add them together and we will put the value inside the variable sum. Also, we have the flowchart, which uses rectangular boxes in order to do the calculations. So inside the rectangular box, we will have sum equals sum plus number, and this is how we do the calculation. Now let's talk about the structure. We have two types of structure. Number one, if structure. Number two, loop structure. We will talk about both of them in details.